Alright, guys. I know it's been a long time, but I'm back. I hope you're having a great November 2nd, 2019, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Music of Destruction. So tonight, we are having a look at a rather obscure band from Denmark, Konkhra, Weed Out the Week. We're reviewing that tonight, which was released on Progress Records and debuted July 7th, 1997. Now, Konkhra was formed in 1988 and actually started out under the name Vicious Circle, for those of you who don't know, and then became Konkhra in 1990. Now, Konkhra are a thrash groove metal band, which is an awesome combination in my opinion, and that's kind of what I felt Pantera were, even though they were only labeled are classified as groove metal. I still think Pantera did have some thrash elements to their music. Amazing. Pantera fucking rule. Now, the lineup on Weed Out the Week consisted of Anders Lundmark on vocals, guitars, and lyrics. James Murphy, once again, back on guitars in full force. Very fucking cool, as everything that James touches, of course, turns to gold, guys. I mean, James is just one of those guitarists that knows how to implement something special to everything that he fucking plays in. He's just so goddamn good. Of course, then we've got Thomas Christensen on bass and Chris Kontos playing the drums. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the bell for all notifications. I would appreciate it. If you want to follow me on social media, search Twitter and Instagram for Music of Destruction. If you would like to get access to my exclusive podcasts, The Seed, then consider heading on over to Patreon and becoming a patron. Go to patreon.com/Music of Destruction right now and check out the Patreon page. Right now I'm covering the history of Pantera for you guys. Parts 1 and 2 are up there right now, so go and check that out. I'm sure you will enjoy all the podcasts that are on there. Part 3 will be the conclusion of the history of Pantera, and I'm releasing that one on November the 15th for you guys. So thank you very much for your support over there on Patreon. Alright, so Weed Out the Week opens with the track Heavensent, and it starts off with this really cool tribal drumming and some awesome groovy riffing and bass lines that can be heard all throughout the track, with some really great vocals being put forth here and some great double bass work from Chris on this track as well. Now, James's riffing, of course, is extremely good on this one. Lyrical themes on this track allude to internal struggle with a lot of negative emotions and darkness, like a battle with an inner demon of some kind, but also trying to find that balance so that some good can come of the situation that this track is describing. It's almost like the duality that exists within us as we experience life in all of its twists and turns. A really good track here, and it's quite groovy and thrashy, which is absolutely awesome. Next up is Time Will Heal, and it starts off with a really awesome thrashy groove riff and some great drumming from Chris. Now, James's guitar here is very groovy, and his riffs are innovative as hell throughout this album. Though this stuff is quite basic for James, I will say. This is, after all, thrashy groove metal, and compared to his previous works, this is kind of basic for James in my opinion, but I digress. There is some really great leads from him, and there's quite a few breakdowns on this track as well, but it serves it very well. One thing I will note about this album is that the bass is very high in the mix, which you all know that I love, and I talk about it all the time. Now, James has a really fucking sick solo on this one, and it's kind of a rock and roll bluesy vibe, which I really fucking love. It's a great solo going on here as well. Now, lyrically, Time Will Heal is all about one's battle with time and the refusal to give in to the pressures of wanting to become consumed with hatred and bitterness. But it's also about overcoming personal struggles and bad situations. Great track with this one as well. So guys, let's check out Time Will Heal. And we are back. And yeah, this one ends with a really awesome lead guitar once again from James and a thunderous groove lead section that chugs along nicely with Anders' vocals soaring really high over it all like a man on a mission. Absolutely great. Great track here. Next up is Crown of the Empire, and this one is quite atmospheric with some really awesome keyboard work providing a cool ambience throughout the track as well. This one really slows things down and is almost doom-like, but still thrashy and groovy. Lead solo here on this one from James is absolutely awesome as well. And, I mean, as always, everything this man touches is just pure genius, as I said before. This one also has some awesome tribal drumming and tom work that I really appreciate, but also some great rhythmic double bass at just the right times that kicks in and really gives it that heaviness along with that groove, which I think is fucking great. Now, lyrically, this one is all about the corruption of Christianity and all of its bullshit lies. Deals with rape and perversion of the church, of course, which is absolutely awesome. Great track here as well. Next up is Kinshasa Highway, which is an instrumental track that clocks in at about 1 minute and 27 seconds and is quite the tranquil track with some really awesome tribal drum work that really reminds me of Sepultura. Yes, there is some Sepultura influence on this album, which I think is just absolutely great. Now, this is some really interesting stuff, but there's also some Fate chanting in the background for a few seconds with some animal sounds thrown in as well. Don't really know why that is, but hey, it's art. People can do what they want. Now, the tribal drumming continues on for the duration and serves as a nice interlude for the album as well. It then breaks into Through My Veins, which really speeds things up with some super fast drumming and thrashy, groovy guitars, great double bass work, and awesome guitar work both from Anders and James with this one as well. Now, this track also really fucking reminds me of Sepultura and is easily my favorite on the album. Now, lyrically, this one touches on the subjects of death and the afterlife and is also quite mysterious in its approach and overall sound and effect. There's some really cool vocal effects throughout this track as well. So guys, let's go ahead and check out Through My Veins. Once again here, it's fast, it's thrashy, chunky, and downright awesome. This is another killer track on the album with some great, sick, fast double bass sections as well. Now, James does some awesome lead soloing on this one, and it's easily some of his best work on the record so far. Now, next up, we have The Reckoning, and it opens with some great, quick double bass, instant lead guitar solo from James here. Very over the top with its amazing groovy, thrashy riffing that's got some great thrash drumming mixed in underneath it all, along with some great guttural vocals on this one, which make their first appearance on the record. Now, this track is back to that straight-up groove approach with some great, faster thrash sections throughout as well. Now, this track, once again, reminds me of Sepultura, but also a bit of Metallica mixed in here with this one as well. And there's some great machine gun style drumming on both the snare and the double bass kicks that add a really militant feel to the composition on this one. Now, lyrically, this one is all about revenge and victory. Great track here as well. I really love also how this one slows down and has some great tom work throughout it as well. And it slows down with some great breakdowns too. But it doesn't get old because this band knows when to implement the breakdowns. And this was a time when bands knew when to incorporate breakdowns properly, I might add. Great song here as well. Make sure you check out this whole album. It's awesome. Next up is Misery, and this one is another slower, groovy metal song with some awesome, catchy riffs, great drumming. Double bass is once again thunderous in all the right areas as well. Some great lead guitar here. It once again is on full display from James. Got some great catchy groove metal hooks going on here. Great track. Lyrically, this one touches on misery and despair with notes of overcoming the deep misery and pain of life, but also thinking in depth about the root cause of one's misery and also the experience of avoiding it to begin with if and whenever possible. Great stuff here as well. This is an album to me that isn't super deep in its emotional complexity as much as it is instrumentally deep, because after all, it is quite groovy and technical, especially with James on guitars and doing what he does best. The way that he can just contribute to something makes it so special, the way he contributes, and just really carries an album forward and captivates the listener. He always adds something fucking special, whether he's soloing or just adding his own rhythmic input onto an album. He just knows what to do and when. Now, the lead here on this one, once again from James, is absolutely stellar. Now, this is another instrumental, though, and has some great double bass. Awesome lead bass guitar going on here, too, from the bassist. Now, bass can be heard quite clearly on this track and the rest of the album, which I really love. One thing I will also mention here is the production. It's gritty and dirty, but also clear enough to hear everything. But the production implemented here gives the music its own identity, and I really appreciate that about the 90s and the style of mixing, recording, and producing that was used during this era of metal. It's so fucking awesome. There's actually also some parts on this track that really remind me of Meshuggah. Yes, and it's really fucking sick. Meshuggah being one of my favorite bands, by the way, so that's where I get the Meshuggah influence from. Now, next up, we have another amazing track here with Inhuman, with some more groovy thrashing madness going on. Slow in its delivery, but also crushingly heavy, with some really great ambience here on display as well. Another great track that has some of that groove that Pantera pioneered, but also with its own unique take and flavor. James, of course, executes his sick lead solos once again on this one, and it's really amazing to hear how great he can make any project, like I said, by just adding his technical prowess and skill to everything that he does. Now, next up, we have the track Pain and Sorrow, which is a clean guitar passage with a woman chanting, "Angels wouldn't help you because they've all gone away." Kind of creepy with that one. Great track, interesting, and also serves as kind of another instrumental song on a lot of levels, but quite intriguing to the ear as well. Really enjoyed this one. Now, closing out the album, we have the track My Belief, which kind of has a Helmet meets Pantera vibe. And if you listen to the track and you know what Helmet sounds like, you're going to agree with me. It's almost instrumental in its approach and energy with some ambience, which I think is fucking great. It's another groovy crawler that has some great riffing and bass lines going on here as well. Well, I must say that the Helmet vibe I got on this one really impressed me, as I feel Helmet is a band that I think is underrated in a lot of ways. There's also some great, interesting vocal work going on here too. Now, riffing isn't too complex here, but it is captivating enough in its delivery to keep you interested and locked in for its entire duration. Now, lyrically, the song is all about belief in oneself to overcome and triumph over the pain and difficulty that one faces throughout their lifetime. Now, James once again has some really great solo work on this track too, and I really appreciate his efforts all throughout this album. Horns up to you, James Murphy. Can't wait to interview you, brother. Now, the musicians on this album are no slouches and really good here. Really good. Though I often wonder if this album was really as inspired as it tries to pass itself off, because in some parts it kind of seems like it's just going through the motions. However, it still is very good. Overall, Konkhra do deliver what they were going for, but it just doesn't seem as incredible as the potential tries to make it sound, if that makes any sense. And it could take off and go in more directions and really give you that captivating feeling, but it kind of falls short a little bit in places and kind of ends up just being a groove thrash metal record that you could listen to and love, but you're not really missing out on a whole lot if you bypass this one. So the final verdict for Weed Out the Week from Konkhra is going to get a 7 out of 10. If you really like thrash groove and you're familiar with Konkhra, this is an album you're going to want to get. I would love you guys to check it out and just see what you think of it. Let me know in the comments section. I want to give some shout outs to some great friends of mine. Shadows of Death Records, thank you very much for working with me. Shadows of Death is going to be putting on a concert in the Philippines in December. He's signing a great Philippine death metal band, Anna Maria, all-female death metal. Make sure you check them out. I'm going to leave some links in the description to check out Anna Maria. Going to be great, guys. Also an upcoming documentary that Death Del Rock is definitely going on with Gail as well, so make sure you guys check that out. Also a shout out to Metal Bands Chronicles. Check them out on YouTube. Thank you guys very much for tuning in tonight. Please subscribe. Have yourselves an awesome night, and remember to stay fucking metal. Cheers, everybody.